Wow, we just got some big news today. ZOS is going to be doing a full class refresh. Their main goals seem to be reinforcing class identity and making pure classes viable in a subclassing world. Some really good stuff here. Let's go ahead and read through their post. It's kind of a long one, but I'll break it down and give my thoughts. I'll also have it linked down in the description below if you want to check it out. ZeniMax Online Studios combat team shares their core philosophies, goals, and planning surrounding the future of ESO's classes. Earlier this fall, we asked for your feedback on ESO's classes, including your pain points and overall impressions on class identity. As part of our efforts to address long-standing player feedback and improve the overall look, feel, and balance of combat, we are working on a long-term project to revitalize ESO's classes. To help the community understand the scope and context for these changes, we aim to be transparent about our goals concerning ESO's class identities. You can read more about our design philosophy, vision for ESO's classes, goals, identity framework, and rollout for the related changes below. Design philosophy concepts. As we discuss how our vision translates into our goals, it's useful to understand our design philosophy and a few key concepts that guide it. What does class identity mean to us? For us, class identity is what makes a class unique and different from other classes. This covers everything from a part of who they are, what they can do, how they look, what they excel at, and what they don't excel at. When we look at class identity, we use two core pillars to support the experience: source of power and power fantasy. What do we mean by source of power? When we talk about the source of power for a class, we're referring to what the lore-relevant origin of a class's power is and what might differentiate them from a normal citizen of Tamriel. Questions such as these come up. What caused this person to become a Dragonknight, Arcanist, Sorcerer? What are their motivations? Where do they get their power from? The answers to these questions help inform the way their abilities are developed as an extension of their source of power. What do we mean by power fantasy? Power fantasy takes the source of the power a step further and influences how a character receives and is then able to use it. By taking their source of power and putting it into a delivery mechanism, we aim to create the sensation of what it would feel like to be that class. Different power sources shape distinct playstyles. For example, Nightblades rely on cunning and shadow to stay elusive in battle, striking while the moment is right, while Templars draw on divine energy for more zealous and direct combat. These differences help set ESO's classes apart from one another in terms of their identity. It's why some classes have specific power delivery mechanisms that others do not, thus contributing to a more distinct playstyle and establishing a stronger class identity mix. Adapting around player experiences. While it's always important to have a class's vision and goals in mind, it's just as important to ensure that they hold up after the community adapts to new tools and features. As new systems and improvements are introduced, development becomes an ongoing process that requires continual refining. For example, one of the biggest pieces of community feedback that we're looking into is how subclassing interacts with class identity and game balance. Subclassing at its core directly competes with our established version of class identity, and instead puts that agency into your hands, giving you the ability to create anything you want. While this is a deeply important part of the feature for us, it also currently comes with some drawbacks for balance. And this is a part I was really happy to see them acknowledge. As it stands, subclassing is objectively stronger than pureclassing by a large margin for several reasons. This is mostly caused by the vast differences in individual skill line designs. ESO was not built from launch with subclassing in mind, and the system highlighted issues with the current class skill design that were not previously a factor, but are untenable going forward. Absolutely. To support the overall health of the game and class system, we need to respond and adapt to how the game has changed based on how players are using the subclassing feature. With this in-game data and player feedback and available development resources in place, we have a clearer picture of the scope of changes that need to be made. These insights have led us to re-examine our class identities, how they're expressed and designed from individual abilities and passives, where those abilities are sourced, and how they all come together to create a cohesive class and identity. One overarching pattern you'll see as we move toward improving this experience is reorganizing class skill lines, adding in more benefits for sticking with the core skill lines of your class, and decentralizing role-specific power so that a single skill line won't have every tool you need to achieve your goals. I'm really glad to hear that this is the route they're going. For a while, it seemed like they were dead set on going with this is a tank line, this is a DPS line, this is a support line, and trying to take what we currently have and shape it into that. And now it looks like they're going the opposite direction. They're going to lean more into the themes of the lines and then give each line a little bit of something for every role. That way it's more spread evenly throughout all of the 21 class skill lines. If done correctly, this is going to greatly increase the diversity in the types of builds that we see. All right, moving on. Our aim isn't necessarily to nerf though. While in some instances nerfs may be necessary, we'll be using values and specific effects to create more powerful or punchy abilities and passives, but with greater nuances that prevent subclassing from completely dominating the meta. What we aim to achieve is twofold. For those that prefer to play a pure class, you should have a strong and satisfying class identity and the power you need to achieve your goals. For those who wish to dive into subclassing, you should feel the freedom to forge your own identity or even forego identity for the sake of specialized power, but with less of a difference in power compared to pure class options. So this whole section here was so good. It shows that they not only know that there's a problem, but they understand what the problem is. They understand the feedback that's been given about how things are since subclassing, and this looks to me like right in line with what they need to do to make that better. Now, obviously, we won't know if it'll be better until we see some specifics, so hopefully we can get our hands on that pretty soon. All right, continuing on, long-term vision. ESO has evolved tremendously over the last decade, and as new systems and classes have been introduced, the bars for the play experience and our design philosophy have been raised. As part of this project, we have established a holistic, long-term plan for how we aim to modernize ESO's classes and to bring them more in line with one another. It extends beyond addressing identity, balance, or look and feel in isolation, and it aims to address multiple class issues. While many of the items in the list below have always been what we strive to accomplish, and that isn't changing, we will be spending more time strengthening ESO's classes and focusing on these guiding principles. Our long-term vision is every class will be viable in any role. To us, viability means players can reach their goals with the choices offered. This does not necessarily mean equally optimal, but always providing multiple choices for you. We want each class to feel cohesive and true to its power fantasy with abilities, animations, and audio effects that reinforce its core identity. This means refreshing and modernizing abilities so they look and feel as impactful as those of more recently introduced classes like the Arcanist. We're committed to evolving our design philosophies by using player feedback and in-game data to help guide class updates. As we address balance concerns and update class mechanics, our goal is to ensure that every class feels good to play both mechanically and thematically while keeping the unique flavor that sets each apart. Goals. For this refresh of ESO's classes, our primary goals that support the long-term vision we laid out are, the first one here is strengthen the unique identities of each class, making them feel fun and rewarding, as well as thematically unique and engaging to play. And then improve the balance between pure classing and subclassing, so both paths have their place in the game. Make each class's skill lines more varied and distinct for what they offer a role, so that each skill line holds something valuable regardless of what you play. Oh, I love this one so much. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad they're doing this. Next is use both in-game data and player feedback to help inform our decisions, ensuring changes reflect player experiences and preferences. And then address power outliers in abilities and skill lines, and look at balance concerns as we progress through each of the classes, prioritizing mathematical and functional changes before visual and audio updates. Identity. Below we lay out the unique high-level identities we envision for each of these classes and how that would be translated into the gameplay experience. This might be what you would expect to see on a character creation screen. I think this is a really cool graphic here. I love how they put this together. So let's go ahead and read through and see the sources of power and power fantasies for each of the classes. For Arcanist, seekers of truth and knowledge, Arcanists wield a form of runic magic so complex it requires a pact with Hermaeus Mora. Their abilities shape fate by building and spending power and unleashing potent spells. Arcanists unleash bursts of power in cycles, excelling at mid and long-range tactical combat. Necromancers, masters of life and death. Necromancers use corpses as resources by unearthing undead minions and tethering themselves to the battlefield. Necromancers gain power with each corpse they command, use enfeebling effects, and control the undead to do their bidding. Templars, holy warriors who channel the power of the sun and Adric entities. Templars use light as both a weapon and a shield and create sanctuaries. Using the blinding power of light, Templars can keep pressure at a distance but are truly a force when in melee range. Dragonknight. Dragon-powered warriors who wield flame and fury with eruptive power, shielding their allies and themselves with earthen forces. Conquerors that dominate the front lines and excel at controlling the battlefield, often by building power over time. For the Wardens, protectors of nature and the cycles of Nirn, Wardens use the seasons to adapt and preserve balance. As with the changing of the seasons, the Wardens' adaptability allows them to quickly react to what the situation demands. This flexibility gives them freedom to fight and flourish on the battlefield. For sorcerers, as master strategists, sorcerers call upon Daedric pacts and dark magic as the source of their power. Highly strategic and mobile, sorcerers focus on spell synergy and the opportunistic use of forbidden powers to achieve their goals, excelling at combining abilities for maximum effect. Nightblades use shadows and subterfuge. This rogue type steals power from foes to stay alive and support allies. Preferring indirect combat and evasion, Nightblades often rely on mobility and stealth to survive at a distance and strike at the perfect moment with a finishing blow. I really like this graphic. Whoever put this together did an awesome job, and it's a nice breakdown of each of the classes. All right, let's keep reading. In the interest of fostering communication, transparency, and building trust, we want to keep you informed as these updates progress. With this in mind, we are in the early stages of the process, and the class information outlined above is still subject to change as we work through addressing each class. Rollout. This is a major comprehensive initiative that will span several updates. We are prioritizing the classes that require the most modernization and balance work first. For some classes, this will be an exercise in refinement. For others, it will mean a more thorough reconfiguring. And for some classes, it may be a mix of both. As we get closer to beginning work on each class, we'll go into deeper detail with regular updates about the upcoming changes. Each class will be addressed one at a time and receive impactful mechanical and balance changes in addition to any needed updates to visuals and audio. We're starting with the Dragonknight class as the anchor, given its foundational role and the extent of changes needed. These class-by-class updates will run alongside ongoing support for the game, and timelines may shift as needed. The current order is subject to change based on ongoing needs. Dragonknight, Warden, Sorcerer, Templar, Nightblade, Necromancer, and then Arcanist. We'll also continue working on regular bug fixing and performance updates as normal. Our goal is to keep the relative level of power players have now, and we will work to maintain that within reason moving forward. While we won't focus on large balance changes outside of ability line refreshes and subclassing balance, we'll continue to monitor feedback and adjust values for balance on other aspects of gameplay as needed. We're currently looking into ways to alleviate some of the long-standing community concerns with both Pureclassing and subclassing in the short term, as well as underlying broader issues and feedback. So I really hope they can get into some of these solutions sooner rather than later, even band-aid versions of them in the meantime while they slowly get through each of the classes. Subclassing hit PTS in April, and now we're sitting here in December, and none of the underperforming lines for subclassing have been addressed. So this is just way too long we've had to sit with balance being broken. So my hope is that alongside of these big reworks, we can get some other stuff put into place, even if it's only temporary, so that we're not stuck waiting however long it's going to take them to do all of these classes before balance is in a decent spot. All right, moving on. Example changes. A great way to better understand what we've discussed is through examples. As mentioned above, we'll be starting with Dragonknight, which is already underway internally with high-level adjustments to abilities, visuals, and animations. Below, we'll cover some of the larger adjustments broken out as the refinements versus reconfigurations we mentioned above to give some insight into the design process and how it fits into our vision. Refinement. Dragoknights are attrition warriors. There will be many adjustments that help reforge this experience, including unique damage over time parameters like shorter durations, higher damage per tick, and ramping effects that let them build their power over the course of a fight. Another area this is improved is with the new Avalanche passive in Earthen Heart, which allows you to slowly build up momentum with a stacking damage bonus while in combat that can be lost if you fail to keep up the pressure. Reconfiguring. Dragoknight's flames are ravenous and demand fuel. Dragoknights are designed to require careful resource management, creating the feeling that their flame always needs fuel. This also helps balance the class, preventing them from dominating long battles simply by outlasting their opponents. While we still believe in this design philosophy, we've also tried to build more satisfying methods of solving those problems inside their class kit, like reworked Inhale, which has moved to Ardent Flame, and now briefly restores a % of your missing resources over time before unleashing its classic explosion. Definitely an interesting change. This was a skill that was in the Draconic Power line, so now they're moving it to Ardent Flame. If I had to guess, I would think that they're moving the chains out of Ardent Flame and into Draconic Power. Does make me wonder if this is going to be the only swap or if we might see some more of this. Ongoing planning. Classes are a core aspect of the game, and we are committed to seeing this effort through. We are excited and energized about this upcoming work and can't wait to show you more as it develops. Our goal is to keep the community regularly informed on our efforts as they progress. Some updates will have more information than others, and we will share more details about each of the classes and their improvements as they come into focus more clearly. We know many of you will have other questions about what this means for things like subclassing, pureclassing, hybridization, overall balance, other combat-related skills, etc., and we'll do our best to share what we can as it is firmed up. As part of this, we will host an ESO Live on Thursday, December 4th to answer some community questions, and we will follow up with FAQ documentation. We'll have more to share with you all early in the new year about some of these improvements and more, so stay tuned. Overall, I thought this was a really good post from them. It is incredibly transparent. It's very thorough. They've used the term deep dive in the past, but this was actually what I would consider a deep dive. The only thing I'd say it's really missing is more detail, but it was already a really long post, so I can understand them not getting into more specifics, but hopefully we can get more specifics before we hit the PTS. This is one of my big concerns. It seems like every time we go to the PTS, it's just never enough development time for them to really adjust based on player feedback. So if we can actually look at what they're doing with the Dragonknight ahead of the PTS cycle, whenever that is, I think we can really shape this into something that fits that community expectation. Will the changes that they propose be good? I don't really have any way of knowing, but the earlier they can get those to us, the better chance they have to land in a good spot. I also want to say I'm really impressed with their communication as of late with this, and then the big letter on vengeance. They're really getting into a lot more detail than we're used to seeing, and I think this just needs to be the norm going forward. And it sounds like, based on their wording, that they want it to be, but we've heard that a lot from ZOS in the past. Year after year, they've said, we want to improve our communication, we want to improve our communication. It's never really improved, and in a lot of ways it's gotten worse. But we have some new leadership there. We have a base for this communication that is starting to build, and it's looking to me anyways like it's headed in the right direction. Now, is this something they can keep up, or will they crawl back into their holes like we've seen them do in the past? Only time will tell, but I am really excited to see what they're working on here. Could this whole letter be a bunch of hot air? Maybe, but the fact that they are pointing out precisely what I've seen the biggest complaints are in the community, and the steps they are proposing going forward are also lining up with what I've seen proposed by the community. I don't know about y'all, but I'm getting a good feeling about where this is headed. Thank you so much for watching. What do you guys think about this letter? Do you think ZOS is trending in the right direction? Let me know in the comments below. If these videos have been helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel. It does help out a lot. Big shout out to my YouTube supporters and Patreon members. Thank you very much for the support, and a special thanks to these folks here. I couldn't keep doing this without you. See y'all in the next one. Bye.